This is episode 10 with Matt Rodriguez. Welcome to the Sports Business Classroom audio experience. I'm your host, Sergio Millis, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover how to break in and succeed in sports and life. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and let the experience begin. This episode is brought to you by Sports Business Classroom, an immersive sports business training and educational experience dedicated to preparing future sports business professionals. It is a one-of-a-kind learning opportunity for those interested in the business of basketball and jobs in sports. Sports Business Classroom combines the best of all worlds into a single package: great academics, hands-on experience, immersion in the Las Vegas Summer League, and interaction with some of the best minds working in and around the NBA. For more information about Sports Business Classroom, go to sportsbusinessclassroom.com. This episode is also brought to you by Hall Pass Media, a full-service marketing agency that specializes in brand consulting, event management, digital marketing, and creative design. For more information on Hall Pass Media, go to hallpassnetwork.com. Today's guest is the co-founder of BallisLife, Matt Rodriguez. BallisLife.com is a basketball fan's heaven. They have taken basketball mixtape making to a new level with a combination of music, art, and innovation, and are the leader in mixtape media on the internet. Through their channels, Matt and BallisLife have created a movement, and their creativity and passion have earned them an incredible fan base. BallisLife has over 3 million subscribers across their YouTube channels, over 4.7 million followers on Instagram, and over 1.6 million followers on Facebook. To put things into perspective, BallisLife videos have been watched for over 1 billion minutes. In this episode, we discuss Matt's incredibly inspiring journey, how BallisLife got to where it is today, and the guiding principles that have led to their success. I absolutely love this conversation and have so much respect for Matt and what him and his team have built. When you listen, it'll become very clear that the success of this company is a result of passion, never giving up, and love for the game of basketball. Without further ado, I give you Matt Rodriguez. Matt, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here, as I absolutely love what you guys are doing with your company and the platform you've built. But before we get into that, I want to hear about how it all started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what life was like as a kid?
I grew up in more of a small town, went more like artistic type schools. I've been involved with art since I was a young kid, from middle school when I took a 3D modeling class, and we learned how to scale up a comic strip up to like a big poster board style.
Oh, wow.
And you'd have to draw it based on like a grid that you would increase by X amount to make it that size it was, even though it was just a little 1x1 comic book strip.
Wow.
And then we also made like paper mache, like heads. Like one person made like a Darth Vader head, the school. That was pretty cool. And then in high school, I went to Santa Rosa High School, which is a very diverse group. You have like your FFA, you have your arts, you have like chorus and all that type of stuff there, and you have band, and there's just a lot that was offered at the school, and just gave me like a very well-rounded approach as I was growing up, where I feel like today we're reducing the arts in a lot of ways. And I feel like the arts helped me to be able to, I guess, think outside the box of what I can and can't do.
Sure.
Like,
did you grow up, like, were you always interested in the arts, or was that something that your parents were interested
really.
in? Or
I was more interested in football and basketball. But I always liked arts, but it was something that, like, the macho side is like, I'm not going to admit that I like that.
Right.
Like, there was one time I was in like this 3D sculpting class in high school, and the teacher came up to me and she's like, "Oh, you have like really nice hands, like to be able to like massage the clay," because we're making some like clay cups or whatever. And I was just like, looked at her just like, why did you just say that in front of all these people?
Right. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I want to be a football player, a basketball player. Yeah. So you went to art school when you were super young.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to come to Orange County?
Well, first, my upbringing, I was brought up in more of a single parent household. We didn't have much growing up. We definitely had to know how to make a little go really far growing up. So up until I was like senior in high school, we lived in like a pretty small 2-bedroom home with, at one point, there was like 7 or 8 of us living there. The first time I had a room was when I was a senior in high school. So for me, it was just being in like a congested environment all the time. It was tough. And then once I was going to the local junior college, I couldn't understand the concept of like not playing sports anymore, because I was playing sports my whole life.
What did you play?
I played everything. I mean, I did wrestling, I did baseball, I played basketball kind of on the side because it was the same time as wrestling, and then I played football too. So I just kind of dabbled around in everything. I just love sports, period. But yeah, then once sports was gone, it was like, what am I doing this school for? Like, I started to not really go to class. I didn't take school serious. I also graduated pretty young. I was like barely 17 years old when I graduated.
Oh, wow.
So I wasted probably about 1.5 years, 2 years going to community college up there at Santa Rosa Junior College. And I just realized, like, I'm not taking things serious. Like, I need to make myself more responsible. A friend of mine called me up that I went to high school with that actually moved down here. He was in Mission Viejo at the time. And he's like, my brother's moving out. Do you want to come move down here with me? I need a roommate. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like 19 years old, prepared to move. Just got up and left. Didn't really have like any financial support or anything like that involved. It was just, let me find a job when I get down there.
Wow.
When you're 19 years old, you don't really think about those things. Like, yeah, I probably need a job lined up before I leave, not when I leave. So coming down here, it took me a little while. I couldn't even get a call back from Taco Bell when I first came down here. It was kind of tough. And luckily I was hired by this local pharmacy that used to be here, Long's Drugs, before it was purchased by CVS, and started working there for a while. And at the same time, when you start working full time, you start being responsible when you have to pay rent.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to start paying bills. Then you're just like, do I want to live paycheck to paycheck my whole life? Like, no. That right there motivated me to say, all right, I'm going to go back to school, but I'm going to take it serious this time. So working full time, paying bills, going to school full time, and also this hobby that I really like to do, which was making videos and putting it on a website that me and a group of friends created, was just like lingering in the background. And I was just like, who are some of the top players around Southern California? Looked up some of the rankings and saw DeMar DeRozan was not too far away. Went to Compton High, started filming him a bit in 2006.
So this is while you're in school?
Yeah, I'm in school, working full time. After I get off work, I drive to Compton, go film his games, and then come home late at night.
Wow.
And then do the whole thing over.
Film and edit at the time? Could you film and edit, or were these skills that you were kind of acquiring as you were?
I would say there wasn't enough time in the day for me to do it all right then and there. Like, today is very fast paced.
Yeah.
Back then it was like film, come home, eat when you can. And then when you have some extra time on the weekend or something, then start going through the tapes and taking out highlights. Our focus back then was more geared towards making the highlight mixtapes. So it was just get the best highlights, which could have only been like 2 or 3 highlights in a game. So would do that, then make a compilation at the end of the year. But that was just kind of my thing back then, was just every day I would go to school, go to work, then go film some games of the top players.
Because you just loved hoops that much.
Yeah. It was like an escape.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And was this the first iteration of BallisLife?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah.
And so at that time, how much content were you guys putting out?
Definitely not daily. It was every now and then we would put out content. I don't even remember how often we were posting stuff. But in 2006, prior to me doing things on my own with my business partner, Audit Kasoyan now, we the group I was working with before, we were filming Derrick Rose at the time, and he was a top player, but there was no video of him. And that's the whole reason why BallisLife started. It was, we heard stories of guys that played in the NBA or guys that flamed out and didn't make it to play in college or the NBA, but they were just like these mythological players that all these NBA players would talk about, whether it's your, what's the dude's name from Chicago? Ronnie Fields and the Hook Mitchells of the world. You had all these NBA players vouching for them, like, oh, they were just unbelievable to play with. And for us, we wanted to capture those moments, not only the guys who made it, but the guys who didn't make it. So started that up, put out that video of Derrick Rose, got like 30,000 views in the first night, shut down our server. How did that happen?
So this was on your site. You posted it to your site.
Yeah, YouTube wasn't even purchased by Google at that point.
Wow.
So it was just like, how did that happen? Like, how did people even find this?
Yeah. And you were in school at the time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you just put it up on the site. Did you do anything to promote it, or, what do you think led to the 30,000 views?
Back then there was no promoting. There's no social media. Like, there's no Twitter, there's no Instagram. Facebook is still being distributed only as like a college campus type thing.
Yeah.
MySpace is kind of around, but it's not really geared towards promotion at the time. So there's really just put something up on your website and hope people like go on Google search and find it and somebody picks it up.
So it's still a mystery to you what the 30,000 came from?
We found out it came from a forum, but still, like, who from that forum knew to go on BallisLife.com to check that out? So it was a really fun thing for us, which, like, what did we just stumble upon? Oh yeah, but this is kind of cool. Let's continue it.
Yeah. And so who was the group at that time? Is it like, who were you working with at the time?
It was myself and two other individuals. One guy's name was John. The other one's name was Nils. And they went off to go start Hoop Mixtape, which was a competitor at the time. And then with that, they kind of took everything that they also filmed and created at the time. So I had to like literally start from scratch in 2007. But again, it's still just like a hobby at that point. And that's also when I met my business partner, Audic. We ended up going to an event in Vegas, and he kind of fell in love with the whole idea. He was just supposed to help me make a DVD at the time. We were just going to make a mixtape DVD. And he filmed Damar and Brandon Jennings. And he's just like, man, how can I do more of this? And since then, it's just been like an awesome partnership between both of us. What's even cooler about the partnership is our birthdays are literally one day apart.
Wow.
It's weird, like that partnership happened and we're one day apart, like on our birthdays.
Yeah. And you guys are still close.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. So you went to the Art Institute of Orange County. Mm-hmm. Did you learn a lot of the skills that you're currently using today there, or what were you studying there?
So when I went there for my degree was called Web Design and Interactive Media. So basically you worked on some front-end web development and user experience. And then you also worked on back-end development as well. And then you also had a focus on video, audio, and editing, not only just editing, but shooting and using lighting. And then there was like a photo aspect to it. So it was like literally everything I wanted to do with BallisLife. And it was so much for what I wanted to do with BallisLife that almost all of my projects during school were BallisLife. And I just utilized it for this hobby that I had on the side. That was quickly no longer becoming a hobby. Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, I've had this conversation with several people now on the podcast where it's like, look, if you're passionate about something, like use your schoolwork to, take that passion further, right? Like if you don't have an internship or you don't have any work experience, like you can still put together projects in school, right? And I think that's amazing. It sounds like you were learning things in school that you were you're probably just like me. Like I learned something new and I want to go apply it immediately, right? Especially as it relates to web development or digital marketing or whatever it is, right? Every time I learn something new, that's what it is, right? It's like, how can I go put this into play? And I think it's so awesome that, most of the people that I've talked to so far on the podcast, like none of them went to art school or art institutes, right? Like the whole web development, digital marketing, advertising, like that whole space really doesn't get enough love for like what you're capable of doing if you know how to connect the pieces.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of times I think business school is good. I can't knock it because I haven't been there. But also just learning the business itself is very valuable. Like, I don't think I could have learned everything I did with BallisLife by going to business school. But there was so much, like you said, I was able to apply to the business to help it flourish.
Right.
And I couldn't have did any of those things going to business school. They're not going to teach me any of those things.
No question. So it's 2007. You've created a few videos, right? Did it after the first video went out and you got 30,000 views? Like, did every video after that do that well, or what was that like?
No, because as time increased, there was new platforms to take advantage of. Like, eventually in 2007, Google and YouTube partnered, and then they had like a partner program where you could sign up on there. And then, so for us, from about 2007 to about 2011, our focus was to send people to our website, just because we're able to control the audience there. Like, it's something that we own. And 2011 hit, and the NBA lockout came around in like July of 2011. I think we had accumulated something north of like 20 plus million views on YouTube at the time in 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And we had like 23,000 subscribers or something like that. And in the 4 or 5 months the lockout happened, we became like the go-to destination for NBA lockout content. And if you're not familiar with that, it was the time when guys like LeBron, Steph, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, everybody was playing in all these games around the country, seemingly almost every other day or every week. And we were going and flying all over the place and covering those games.
Just out of your pocket? I mean, at the time, were you making any money at the time?
No way. Everything we made, we always just put it right back in.
Yeah.
So we would put it back in, and I mean, in the sense of paying, keep the site up, to get camera equipment, to get tapes at the time, because we're still filming on mini DV tapes, and gas, lodging, travel, but we still had to come out of pocket on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just cool that we could go be there. Like, we just wanted to be there.
Right.
And be in the vicinity of these cool things that were happening on the basketball court.
Yeah, it sounds like we had Cassie Athena on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she said that the lockout was huge for her, right? Because that's when she started filming or shooting the Drew League, right? And that was a huge opportunity for her. But I mean, talk to me about the years prior to the lockout, right? Where you had amassed a ton of views. How many videos a week were you shooting? Like, how many were you trying to put out? Was there a schedule, or was it pretty much just, hey, we're going to go shoot this guy, let's put it out when we can?
No, we would just find out who's like a good player to make a mixtape on. And we're probably releasing 1 or 2 videos a month at the time. It wasn't anything crazy or substantial. And we would film. If you want like a really good mixtape done, you need to film at least like 10 to 15 games.
Really?
Yeah. You can't go film 1 game. Like, today is different because people want to watch like the full game highlights. So it's a little different. So you're putting up a lot more content than you were back then. It was back then a 2-3 minute video was perfectly okay. Even sometimes like a 90-second video was perfectly okay. Today, you can't get away with that on YouTube. So there was no schedule. We're still just young, kind of growing into everything. In 2011, we started our apparel brand. Came out with like a big BallisLife t-shirt that we ended up making over like 30 colorways of it because it was widely popular. We also came out with some socks at the time. And when we first got the socks made, I actually got the help of a friend to help finance it. And the socks came like really big. Like, the medium was about the size of an XL, and the large was like the size of like Shaq's foot.
Wow.
And the XL could fit like maybe Bigfoot or something like that. And everything was just kind of messed up. We ended up like working things out, but had to pay a bit more to fix things. But we lucked out on the sense that the socks were also very popular. And we ended up being able to pay that back and not have any issues there. But it just gave us the ability to not have to rely solely on ad revenue.
Right.
Our fans were able to support us right away. And what that allows us to do is just keep giving them the content they want to see, as opposed to content that an advertiser you're waiting to get behind. been a part of many partnerships where people literally hold on to things because they don't have an advertiser involved. And it's like, why are you holding on to that? That's like really good for your website that you need to put up, or your media brand that you need to put up. You're literally holding off on putting it out because you don't have a presented by sponsor.
Yeah, it's
that
ridiculous.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, no question. At what point did you decide to launch the apparel brand?
I actually had an idea to do it when we first started the site in 2005. That was when I.
So you've always wanted it.
Yeah.
You've kind of always wanted your own apparel brand.
Yeah, I designed the logo in a way that I thought could look cool on a t-shirt. And then I redesigned it in 2007 or 8 to give it like more of a modern feel to it. And for me, it was like, if people are watching our videos and our name is on there and our logo is constantly on there, when I drop apparel, they're instantly going to know what that is, especially if like 1 billion people see it. So it's not like I'm bringing something brand new to the table and telling you guys like, hey, I'm behind this.
Come buy it, right?
Yeah. It's more of like, hey, we sell apparel now. Like, oh, cool. I know what BallisLife is.
Right. And at what point did you know, like, holy smokes, this is a real business?
I'd say like 2014. Yeah. 2014, 2013, around there. I mean, shortly after the lockout years happened, things picked up. Mm-hmm. And I would say within like a couple of years of that happening, it was like, for me, as I'm going to school, I'm like, it's either school or BallisLife.
Yeah.
And going to art school, you're going to create almost like a resume for yourself, and then you sell yourself afterwards with a presentation of your work. For me, when I got to the point of just 2 classes left, unfortunately for me, one of those classes was portfolio, and the other one was basically presenting your portfolio. Mm-hmm. My portfolio was only BallisLife. So my professor looked at me and was just like, you need to add more projects to your portfolio, otherwise you're not going to be able to graduate. And I tried to go back and do it, but unfortunately adding those projects was just going to take way too much of my time, on top of being able to create a presentation of selling myself when I didn't want to sell myself to work for somebody, because I was already making an income with BallisLife and putting my full time into that. So why would I want to do that?
Right.
So for me, it wasn't, when I talked to my wife about it, she's just like, you should have just did what they asked you to do and stop trying to find a way around it. Because I've always found a way around many things in my life. And I'm just like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just not interested in working for somebody else. I'm interested in working in this, what I'm doing. And I see a future in it. And I either have to dive into that right now or not have the option to do it.
Gotta go all in, right?
Yep.
So when you did decide that you were going to go all in, and you had realized that this was going to be something profitable and that this was a legit business, how big was your team at that point? Or who was the team?
We had a few regional guys that we partnered with, so we didn't have to travel as much. Because as we're going to all these events, like me and Audit can't be flying from LA to East Coast and all over the Midwest and South and everything like that all the time. Like, we're going to stretch ourselves super thin. Yeah. So as we're going to these events, we kept networking with people, talking to folks that we thought could be good additions to the team, who were just, some of them were just kind of dabbling in the space a little bit. And I'm sure you've seen them at events. Like, there's always like young kids there that are just like, hey, we just want to be around this basketball thing, and we want to film and make videos too. So at that time, we found a few people that we thought could fit our team very well. And luckily they said yes. And we're able to expand the team in a way that helped us scale up as far as being able to create more content. And what's good is that we've all kind of grown with the space, and not just the basketball, grassroots basketball space, but the social media space. So we've grown with it from its infancy, and we know how to use it correctly. None of my guys that are on our team have worked for a company where you're just keeping the ball rolling. Like, no, they know how to make the ball roll initially and then keep it rolling. So that's kind of like what we pride ourselves on, that like we're able to really utilize each platform in a way that not only benefits the users on that platform and the platform itself, but BallisLife.
Right. Yeah, no question. So when you first brought the new team members on, did they shoot and edit? Or talk to me a little bit about like what you were looking for, some of the criteria, what was the vetting process?
We've always tried to get people that make our lives easier.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times what can happen in a business is, and I've seen it with folks that have been in competition next to us, is they like things to be a certain way. And that certain way they feel like can only be accomplished through them. And for me, and it's something I've even had to like push into my team as well, I had to learn myself in working a regular job, is if you allow your team around you to prove themselves, they will. If you allow them to make mistakes and let them know like a mistake is okay, as long as you learn from it and you're not making the same mistake over and over again, they'll prove to you how valuable of an asset they are. And that's just something that we've had to do with each addition to the team. So like whenever we have a new video member, a part of our team, we want them to edit. We want them to add graphics. We want them to create a post. Because why would we have one of us do it when they can easily do that? Right. And especially if, as they keep creating more and more and more, they're going to be comfortable with it. And eventually you're going to be comfortable with them doing what they need to do. And then the only thing you're doing is checking to see that it's up.
Right. So right now, how many people are on your team?
Locally here in Irvine, I think we have like 12 people on our team.
Okay.
And then around the country, we probably have like an additional 20 people that we work with.
Wow. And so you guys, can you speak to how much content you guys are producing on a daily basis?
I don't know the number for daily basis, but we're producing around upwards of 400 to 500 videos a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in each person...
That doesn't count like regular tweet posts or anything like that. That's just video that we're producing.
Okay. And how do you guys, at this point, you guys have the visibility, you have the platform. How do you guys choose what to shoot?
Well, those same team members that we went and formed a partnership with, seems like almost like 9-10 years ago now. Those are the guys that have been going to these events for many, many years, as our other guys in the space are utilizing 15 and 16-year-old kids with cell phones. Those kids don't know the event operators. They don't know the teams.
Right.
They don't know the people in the space. They don't know you. They don't know any of the people that are putting on these events. But myself and my team, we've been communicating with event operators and people that run organizations for 10 years.
Right.
Some of us even longer than 10 years. So we're able to kind of figure out at a very young age which guy's going to be good, or which guy we should at least keep an eye on as he kind of gets older. And today, even with girls basketball, which person we should keep an eye on as they get older as well. And that's helped us a lot. And it's just another way of just networking and being around people that just really know the game of basketball.
And main take goes back to relationships.
Yep.
Every single person that's been on this podcast has talked about relationships.
Yep.
And how that's been the key to their success.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how big the platform is now, as far as just, social following, number of views a month, anything you can tell us that
will give
the audience.
Social numbers off the top of my head. I think we have like over 500,000 on Twitter. We're getting close to 5 million on Instagram. We're over 1.5 million on Facebook. Cumulatively on YouTube, I think we're like around 3 or 4 million. And on Snapchat, they don't really have subscribers on Snapchat. It's like they subscribe to your show page, which is different than your actual profile page. I had to look at that. But as far as like our views per month, I think we're somewhere in the 400 to 500 million range per month. And that's like mainly content that we own and we produced. A lot of times that I see numbers, and they're always like vanity numbers. People just want to make themselves look really good. But one thing I pride our company on is the majority of the content we're pushing out is our own. We shot it we edited it, we produced it from point A to point B to getting it up. And that's awesome. Like, I think it's something to be very proud of for my whole entire team.
No question. And how long does that whole process take usually, as far as producing? If you can give me an average time of how long it takes you guys to produce a video.
If you were talking mixtapes back in the day, we're just mainly looking at those, like DeMar DeRozan's senior season mixtape. And I'm just giving this example to show like how quickly things have changed. Filmed like 30 games. So just imagine 2 hours.
30 games for one video.
Wow. Just imagine 2 hour round trip plus filming the game, plus capturing the game, plus cutting the game, then editing the video.
Right.
I mean, what is that? Let's say 60 hours plus filming the game. It's 90 hours plus capturing it. That's like another 30. That's like 120 hours plus cutting the video. That's probably another 30. That's 150 hours. And then editing the video, which will probably take between 8 to 10 hours, let's say 160 hours to produce one video.
Wow.
Back in 2009, 2010.
Right.
And today it's right after the game's over.
Yeah, no, and I do want to talk about how you get that stuff out so quickly, and 160 hours, and you don't know what the video is going to do,
Nope.
right? Or do you think that by the time you were doing that, you kind of understood what the cause and effect would be of each video?
No, we just did it to do it because we love doing it.
Yeah.
We didn't, at that time, we weren't really thinking business. It was still just, this is cool. We want to be a part of this. It wasn't really until 2013, 2014 when things started to really change for us.
Yeah. Now, did your mindset shift as far as, well, obviously you want to give the community what it wants, right? But as far as, okay, we know that these types of videos are going to do better than others, right? Let's look at the analytics. Let's produce more of that. Or have you guys just kind of stuck to the whole, look, we just want to be a part of it. We're excited to be a part of it. We want to let people know who's next.
It's really changing with the platforms and then competition. Like competition plays a role in everything.
Sure.
So if we say we want to point everybody to this destination, but then competition comes over here and says, I'm going to release something on every single destination all at the same time, then what do you have to do? You have to notice that, for one, and go and do the same thing, because you don't want that competition to grow bigger than you on any one of those big platforms. Mm-hmm. So competition plays a huge role, and then the platforms themselves change. So for instance, I would say 2017 is when longer form video became really popular on YouTube. YouTube says that they do not have an algorithm that makes a longer form video have more weight on it with somebody to watch than a shorter form video. But that's not true. We've made mixtapes and they're under 10 minutes by far, like 3 minutes. Some of them shorter than that. And on an account with 2 million subscribers, would you expect that to only get 50,000 views?
Right.
But a game highlight that's 10 minutes long instantly gets more than that.
Wow.
So it's based on the platform. The platform's going to make you change every single time.
So at what point did you start really thinking about how you were going to evolve with the platforms? Because, I mean, you were doing this before the age of social media, before Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, right? Once these platforms came around, like, did you instantly know, like, wow, this is really going to amplify what we're doing? I need to be paying attention, or how did that all evolve?
I think it was a lot of, as they started to grow for us, it was changing our mindset of we need to monetize our content versus, again, competition. So, for instance, Twitter, when it first came out, it was all about 140 characters. It was mainly text. And then for us, we noticed very early on that images did really well. Mm-hmm. So we started creating images with infographics on them. And that was like done by our main social media guy, David. And he noticed early paying attention to numbers that all of a sudden images had more weight than just regular text. And then the same thing started happening with video. And when you're a small team, you can notice things like that on the platforms. So we had to like change our mindset of monetization first to monetization second, and making sure that we stay relevant on these platforms and that we keep our voice and we stay authentic to our audience as much as we can. Because now in 2019, that means for the past 14 years, somebody has grown up on BallisLife that's now like in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s that respects our voice, and we want to stay true to that as well. So we have to not only give them an opportunity to engage with our content, give them content that they like to see on the video side, or just give them shareable content as well. I think there's just a whole approach that you can take with everything. And then you just have to stray away from just the clickbait side of things. Like right. Sometimes you're going to hit that. Like it's tough to be away from the clickbait side of things, but you want to make sure that you're not just following one person or two people, but you spread things around to make sure you're covering the whole community of basketball. And I think we've done a great job at doing that.
I agree. I was going to ask you, how difficult has it been to, maintain your brand message, maintain your company culture when, there are other players in the space, a lot of money being invested, right? Mm-hmm. How have you managed to maintain your integrity as a company?
I think it's by having a really strong team, and it takes a lot to knock us off of our path. Mm-hmm. Like we've had a very difficult path. Me and my team didn't start BallisLife with an investment round of $35 million.
Right.
I started with nothing. And I think everybody on the team has that same type of mentality. Like we didn't get here because we paid to get here. We got here because of a lot of hard work and a lot of just trial and error that we did over time. And it's going to take a whole lot more than some money to knock us off from being the number one destination in grassroots basketball.
Right. Now, how big do you think this thing can get?
I'm not the type of person that's going to go around touting we could be like the next ESPN or we could be the next Bleacher Report or anything like that. I like to be a bit more realistic. Like, there's a lot of luck and a lot of being there at the right place and the right time to be the likes of some of the biggest companies in the world. Mm-hmm. And to think that you can just get there, you're basically trying to throw a stone to Mars.
Right. And
it's really, really difficult to be there. Do I think that we can be bigger than we are? Of course. But I don't think it's honorable of me to set a goal of being $1 billion company. I don't think that makes any sense. If something like that happens, it's a stroke of luck.
Yeah. Now, how has the business evolved since you guys started? I know you talked a little bit about the apparel business. If you can you expand upon some of the other things you guys are doing?
Yeah. We started our own high school senior all-star game in 2009. We started it because at the time, a lot of the voters for the other games were not really watching kids as much as they used to. Mm-hmm. A lot of them kind of got older and they didn't travel as much. And then events just got more segregated. They used to just be mainly independent event operators. And now there's the Nike circuit and there's the Adidas circuit and there's the Under Armour circuit. And all those things didn't exist back in 2009. So in 2009, we barely saw any players from the West Coast, not just California or LA, just the whole West Coast in these top games. Yet they were touting themselves as East versus West. Mm-hmm. How do you have East versus West when East is playing against East? It's not possible. So for us, we just kind of took offense to that, and we're just like, let's throw on a game that kind of sheds light and love on the players that we watch all the time that we think could be playing in these games as well. Pretty much used every single dollar we had on that first game. We made $0 back from it, so we lost everything we put into it. But business partner Audic just wanted to keep doing it, even though I don't want to do it. And then the NCAA removed the 2-game rule, I think in 2014. We ended up getting some big players like Kelly Oubre, Stanley Johnson, and Cliff Alexander, who were all ranked, I think, like in the top 5 at the time, to our game. And then the year after that, we sold out. And then the year after that, we sold out. And then the year after that, we sold out. And it was just very rewarding that for all these years, we took a hit on it. But now the players respected us enough to come to this game and to show out for not only for us, but for the fans.
Right.
And we've always tried to keep it in a very intimate environment so that we feel like the fans can be at the game as opposed to this big, huge NBA arena where you're far away from everything.
Right. You know, one of the things that I love, I've got some more questions, but one of the things that I love is that I've never heard so many of these things from you, is that you know, I know you do this for the love of the game, but just in this conversation, it's so clear to me that you've done all of this because you love the game and for no other reason. That yes, there are some good things have happened as a result, right? Mm-hmm. The business has grown. You've got your apparel business. That's fine. But you laid it literally all on the line just because you felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yep.
So what else? I mean, you've got your events, right? You've got YouTube revenues, right? And you've got merch. Talk about the apparel business a little bit. I know you were saying that you did that. You started that in 2011?
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
And did you have to learn a lot to get into that business, or what's the learning curve been like?
Luckily, again, I come from my art background, so I was able to, again, throw a lot of that behind just the initial design and stuff like that. I think more of the learning came on the quality side. One thing we're lucky to have in LA is it's very saturated with print companies, but it's also a negative because many of those print companies work on very low margins. They don't give you what you order in terms of the colors you want being the same every single time, sizes being the same every time. Sometimes I'll get what's called an irregular t-shirt. So let's say you have an XL t-shirt and it's yay big and yay wide. Well, you would get like 4 different types of XL shirts in one order, and you're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
This one looks like a halter top, and this one looks like a tall tee, and this one just looks ridiculous. Like it looks like a 2X. And I just started to notice early on that like that was not going to be the route for us of going through all these shops. Many of them do a lot of like promotional type things for big companies. So inks are just kind of watered down, in my opinion. I'd pay attention to things as far as texture of inks, to making sure no hairs are coming through on our prints, to just the shirt itself and the quality of the shirt after multiple washes. So in 2014, we actually moved from an office space into a warehouse, and we made the decision to invest in our own screen printing equipment. We got some manual press items, and we tried to do it ourselves and failed miserably. Like it almost turned into a really big mistake. Luckily, I put out an ad, and we found the right person to come in and take it over. That's somebody that had like almost 3 decades of experience in screen printing, and luckily was just in between working part-time at another spot and looking for a full-time gig. So since finding him, his name's Gerardo, he's really taken everything over for us, and his wealth of knowledge is just insane. It's just another part of allowing somebody to do something and showing them that you have full support, from mixing inks to the right textures I need, to making sure there's no hairs coming through prints, to like everything that you want somebody to be able to do. And especially in like an art background, and giving them the full support that he needs to. Today we have an automatic screen printing machine that we can produce tens of thousands of t-shirts per month, and he knows how to run it and maintain it and the whole nine. And just having that team that, again, you just allowed to go out there and do what they need to do.
Now, were you always capable of doing that and allowing people to do what they want to do, or like, where did you learn that?
I think I learned that a bit just more playing sports. At the school I played at, and for football, like we weren't very good with sports, period. We're more of an academic and artsy school. So a lot of the players we had on our team were not as good as the other players on the other team. But if I let them know that, how are they going to feel? They're going to know that they suck. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily that they suck, but they're just going to know they're not as good as the other team. And when I play quarterback, so when you play quarterback, a lot of times you're like the leader of the team.
Sure.
So for me, it was more in the sense of like, sometimes if somebody was giving me an issue, I would put a player that's not at the same level in, just because I wanted to let that person know that I trusted them too. Even if I'm getting hit on that play, it's fine. But I just wanted to push people as much as I possibly could in anything I was doing. Because I knew that, like, in a team sport, you can never win as just one person.
Right.
It takes the whole team to work as one unit to be able to win, unless like I'm in wrestling. But even in wrestling, I need that perfect partner in practice to help me become better, or for me to push somebody else to become better. So I think I just learned that more just in sports more than anything else.
Yeah, it sounds like playing quarterback really helped you evolve as a leader. So tell me a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like now. Like now, I mean, you're the co-founder of the business, right? You just talk about your day-to-day if you could.
Day-to-day is I handle more of the apparel merch and just the business side of things now. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to be less and less involved with the video side today as I was in the past. I'm definitely not out there filming as much as I used to. I do like still going to events. Sometimes I will film an event if they need me to. But it's just, you got to put some fresh air on things that need your attention, and you can't just always live in what you're used to doing. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's more of just coming out of the comfort of knowing that I can go do video stuff and I know it's going to do well. And then coming over and just helping the merch side, helping the business side grow, being structured, being organized, and just making sure that as a business, you're doing things in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can run into a situation where someone wants to do something and it's costing you a lot of money, and you don't even know it unless you look into the business and actually see that. For me, I've always been like nose deep into everything on our finances as a company. And no, I didn't go to a financial background school, but I've always been very, very good with numbers and very good with math. So I've just kind of taken that on and just tried to be the more structured person as I possibly can with the business.
No, I think that's great, especially since, you're working with a bunch of creative people, right?
Yeah.
Who a lot of times need a little bit more structure, right?
Yep.
And since you're a creative guy that's learned to create structure, I think that, that's probably one of the reasons why you guys have done so well. I'm curious, do you guys ever compete as far as whose video is going to get more views, or, do you guys compete in that sense, or is it just, hey, we all support each other,
I think
may the best man win?
I think the video guys do to a certain extent, because they have their regional channels, and at the end of the year, we like show everybody's numbers and how many videos they produce and how many views they've gotten and everything like that. So yeah, there's that competition on that side for sure. Yeah. And it's good. It's healthy to have that.
Oh, no question. Yeah. And is that something you guys developed over time, or something you implemented?
I think pretty early on, as our team started to grow, we definitely started to look at those things, because it can also be a very good motivating factor for your team too. Like, they want to know that you're looking at what they're doing as well. Just like I want somebody else to see my work as well. Right. And I think it just allows them to be appreciated in that sense of, hey, this channel's doing better than this channel. Well, then you need to start working a little harder to get to where this channel is.
Yeah. Or learn from what the other guy's doing, right?
And it's also just pushing the team to also work with each other. Like, it's sometimes with a team, you can run into a situation where you've worked with people for so long that it can be tough to let people know things, or maybe something's just not working out, and things not working out, or you just not being able to voice something to that person can also be the downfall of a team. And sometimes you have to make those changes that are for the better of the team. and just letting your team know that, hey, you can criticize me and I can criticize you. And at the end of the day, we're going to be better for it. And it's totally okay.
Effective communication, right?
Yep.
Open dialogue is always a good thing.
Yep.
Sometimes not an easy thing, but it's always a good thing.
For sure.
So as far as joining your team goes, I'm sure you get hundreds, if not thousands of resumes a month. Are you currently hiring? And if so, what types of roles do you look for and what skills do you look for?
At the moment, no, we're not hiring. Sometimes we'll be looking for folks to cover events for us or games for us in specific areas. We get hit up on Instagram or just our contact email frequently about folks just wanting to either just be a part of the team somehow and they don't know how, or it's somebody that just wants to intern for us. And sometimes it's tough because those people want to intern for you and they're like a 5-hour trip away from on a flight. And it's like, it's kind of hard to intern when you're that far away.
Yeah.
But we do take internships locally with some people. Like we have a guy that's interning for us right now that goes to Chapman Film School, and he just loves basketball and sports, period. And it's fun to work with like a younger group as well, just because that's the other thing is now that I'm 34, I'm no longer a part of that audience that
right
really takes in this content anymore. Sometimes the things I say or do are no longer applicable.
Right. And what skills do you, like if somebody were to try to get a job at BallisLife, what are the skills that you generally look at?
It depends. So on the media side, it's really just being able to work in a fast-paced environment, being able to, I'd say just keep your head on a swivel as far as what's coming up, what's happening in the game. There's things that can happen on the side that might be good for a video. You just want to constantly think about like what can make the video perform very well without putting in like a fight or something that can make somebody look bad, in the sense of like, that's another thing is we stray away from ever putting something that can make a kid. That's one thing we need to realize is these are kids, have a lifelong effect on them, a lifelong negative effect.
Right.
So when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, I've done some pretty stupid things.
Me too.
And I'm glad nobody has it on social media.
Right.
But I think a lot of times with the people in this space, they don't know or they just don't care about that. And for us, it's more of like, these are kids. They're going to make a stupid decision every now and then, but it's not up to us to reprimand them for it.
Right.
It's that I'm sure they have a support system that's going to let them know they messed up, but we shouldn't put something out that's going to have a lifelong negative effect on them.
Right. Well, especially with how big your audience is now.
Yep.
You put something out there, it's damaging.
Yep.
Have there been quite a few instances of videos that you haven't put out based on just that criteria?
There's a few. Generally, we don't film it if it happens. If we do, it's either just never put up, or sometimes we'll just delete it just for the case of deleting it. There have been fights and stuff like that that I've been in the gym with, or some of the guys that work on our team have been in there with, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes it can make the space look bad, but
right.
It happens. There's nothing you can really do about it on your own.
Yeah, they're young boys, but good for you for making that ethical decision to not exploit the drama, right?
Yep,
You're not sure. TMZ.
Yep, exactly.
And it sounds to me like you've really, really understood from the beginning what it is you wanted to accomplish and where you wanted to go with this. And it all comes from a very good place. And I think that's been where a lot of your successes come from, is that you've stuck to your core values, regardless of the competition coming in or the opportunities available to you.
For sure.
I want to go over a few quotes that I found when looking you up. One of them is, throughout life, I've learned to listen and listen to learn. This was first told to me by an English teacher in my junior year of high school. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah.
And why it's so powerful to you?
because if you don't learn to listen, how can you learn? And listening goes more than just with your ears. It's listening with your touch and your feel and just noticing things around you, even with your eyes. If you're not open to listening, even just for myself, sometimes with my wife, she gives me some of like the best feedback I can have because it's unfiltered. And a lot of times with my mentality, I'm like many times can be a very like emotionless person. And sometimes she'll think that I'm like not really taking in her feedback very much, but I most definitely am. So it's really just being able to take in feedback from anybody, because there's a lot of stuff that you can apply to what you're doing in a space that's more entrepreneurial by just listening to people. And it's good to just listen to people who are working in other spaces as well. So yeah, I mean, if you're not able to listen to somebody, how can you possibly learn?
Have you always been passionate about learning?
I think unintentionally, yes. Yeah, I always like learning how something is. Like, for instance, my lawyer, I always have him go over an agreement with me, and I'll ask about everything in the agreement that I don't understand. And for me, it's like, if I don't understand something, how can I question it later on? So even in the sense of being able to talk to the video team or talking to the guys doing screen printing team, the fulfillment team in the warehouse, if I don't know how to do any of that type of stuff, how can I talk to you about improving it? Or how can I ask for a suggestion if I don't even know what to ask a suggestion for?
Right.
So if I don't immerse myself in it, there's no way for me to be able to fully communicate with you. Then I'm just listening to you and I have no clue what you're saying.
So you know how to do every job at your company?
Pretty much.
Now, do you read books at all, or?
I try to, but it's tough. There's almost only like so much time in the day. Yeah. A friend of mine, Kyrie, he used to actually play on the team with DeMar. Sometimes he'll send me a text message saying some famous business person says they read this many books a day or this many books a week, and they're doing all this work on the side. And I always just tell them, like, that's BS. Like, there's no way you have that much time to read that many books unless you're just not working. Yeah, because you need a break eventually from things. So you got to take a break away from things. Otherwise you can't really listen to that book and you can't learn from it.
Right. Do you have any mentors? Or was there anybody growing up that you looked up to that you wanted to model or be like?
There's a lot of people in my life that I consider people that I've taken things from, just because, again, I come from a single parent household. My mom many times worked multiple jobs when I was younger. So coming home, there wasn't much for me to really look up to. So whether that was uncles in my life, whether that was learning from things like programs that I watched on TV, like I love the fact that the new Mr. Rogers documentary came out and then there's a movie about him. Like, when I watched the documentary, I was like, dang, I learned a lot from this, like, just to be like a good person, like that because I didn't have like that father figure in my life, but I took it from somebody else. And people don't many times realize like how valuable something is when you're a kid growing up and you just absorb it like a sponge. In that situation, I happened to be a huge fan of Mr. Rogers. So I took a lot from what he did and what he portrayed on his show. Yeah. And kind of took it and used it for myself. And then there's also just more mentors when you're going up in business. So I have a few people that I kind of lean on for advice and just talk to and kind of hear what they have to say, whether it's business advice or there's some people that, I just talk to just because I want to hear their opinion on something, maybe even outside of business. Mm-hmm. Like, I take something from everyone around me.
That's good. I mean, It sounds like you've learned to listen.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you've received in your career, if any, that you'd want to pass along to the next wave of talent?
One thing I've received is many times we can think too much about what's happening like right in front of us. And sometimes we don't know how to deal with that situation. And that could be like more of a stressful situation. Like what's something that just happened and I'm like super mad about it and I want to do something right away. And a friend of mine once told me, like, take a day to sit on it and see how you feel about it in the morning. And if you still feel the same way, I guess you got to go do what you need to do. Or if you feel differently about it, maybe handle it in a different way. But just always try to find a resolution that works for you in whatever the situation is. And then additionally, aside from that, another teacher that I took things from was my science teacher in high school. He always just told me with how my grades were going and what work I was putting into things, he told me, if you like the way things are going, keep doing what you're doing. If you don't like the way things are going, meaning your grades are falling, change what you're doing to get to where you need to be, where you want them to be.
Most of our listeners have definitely heard of BallisLife, but if they have not, where can people find you?
They can find us on website, BallisLife.com. They can find us on Twitter at BallisLife, Instagram at BallisLife, YouTube at BallisLife, and then Facebook at BallisLifestyle.
And do you have any requests of the audience?
Want feedback on, or just
you're free to make any request you like?
I guess my request or more advice is, there's a lot of us out there that really love to do something when we're younger. Like for me, it was sports. I could see myself doing nothing more than just sports. Just realize that there's other avenues you can take that can or can't keep you involved with sports. I mean, either, you find something that you're passionate about, like I did, that kept me in the space, or you just continue, playing the game that you love, and that kind of helps you remain sane or remain happy throughout your life as much as possible. And I think it's just more just giving yourself the opportunity to have that break in between whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're working one job all the time or you're working multiple jobs all the time. Just make sure you give your mind a break every now and then.
How do you give your mind a break?
Last week, I went and drove my car at Laguna Seca Raceway.
Okay.
That was pretty fun.
What car do you have?
I have a Shelby GT350R.
Nice.
So it's
your face lit up as you said that. That's your baby.
It's a very fun car. I love the thing. I love the way it sounds. I love just the way it starts up in the morning. And it just kind of takes me away from everything I have when I'm out there. My wife even asked me, like, it's so dangerous out there. Don't go too fast. I'm like, but Alia, that's like what really, takes me away from everything else that's going on. I'm not going to be unsafe while I'm on the track, and I don't ever drive fast on the regular road. I'm just going to go out there and have fun. It's just finding those things that take your mind off things. Like, for instance, as I'm talking to you right now, my phone is upside down, so I'm not looking at it. So I think like another thing for me in order to take my mind away from things is, and I people watch a lot, is when I go out with my wife to a restaurant, many times I see people like not really talking to each other. So it's really just being in the moment and being with that person you're there with, converse with them. Like, or if you're by yourself, just look around a bit and see what's out there instead of just always checking to see who's texting you or who's liking your post.
Right.
Or who's commenting on your post. I think a lot of times our heads are so stuck in our phone that we forget to just live.
Mm-hmm. And is this something that you've kind of cultivated recently, or have you always been mindful like that?
I'd say it's probably been about like a couple of years now. Because before we had smartphones, I was always bringing my laptop home and always working from home. And my wife's just like, when are you going to stop working? So then I would shut the laptop, or sometimes I would just leave it in my office, but then there's my phone and I can always be contacted, or I can always check my email. And then I just realized a lot of times that the person that I like to spend the most time with, which is my wife, that I loved to spend all the time with was just sitting there by herself. And again, it just takes you noticing that and looking at it and just saying like, hey, like, what is stopping me from spending time with her? And then I took off all notifications off my phone completely. And then there's like a sleep thing you can put where it makes no noise whatsoever. And it gives you, even if I open up my phone, I don't know that there's an email unless I go into my email and check it. So little things like that have like really helped me. I've always said that if it wasn't for BallisLife, I would have a flip phone.
Yeah.
That's what I would have. But I have to have this for the business that I'm in.
Right.
Yeah.
I've definitely considered the same thing. And it's funny because the notifications thing, I've turned them all off too.
There's been times where I'm like literally deep in thought about something in my office, and then I would like hear my phone and I just want to grab it and throw it across the room.
Yeah.
Because it like totally ruined my train of thought.
And the truth of the matter is when you're in the silence and you're in the quiet, that's when you're best. That's how real thoughts come to fruition, right? It's in the space, right? Everybody's so busy these days, trying to be busy. And I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, right? We just talked for an hour about hard work, right? That's important. But if you don't take the time to digest what just happened during your day or reflect about, what happened, what didn't happen, how to make things better, then you're just constantly spinning your wheels. So I'm all about that. And what I love the most is that your business, at least initially, was super successful based on the great content you created, which I'm not going to say is a distraction, right? But it's on the social networks, right? Which were built to essentially distract people, right? But you are mindful and self-conscious enough to understand that that's what the case is, right? And that you need to step away so that you can have the experiences you want to have. Yep. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, dude, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Been a ton of fun. I'm sure everybody listening learned a lot. And we'll make sure to link up, everything in the show notes. Make sure people can find you.
For sure.
And again, thanks, man. Appreciate you being on, and hope we can do this again soon.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this interview with BallisLife co-founder, Matt Rodriguez. You can find the show notes for everything we discussed at sportsbusinessclassroom.com/Matt-Rodriguez. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with your friends. Share the episode on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and if we're providing value, please let us know by leaving us a review. Both Matt and I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this episode and want to keep the dialogue going. If you have any follow-up questions for Matt or myself, you can leave a comment on the site or send us your questions on social media by tagging us at Sports Business Classroom or at Matt BallisLife. Big thank you to our sponsors, Sports Business Classroom Online and Hall Pass Media, and thanks again for listening. We will see you here next week on the Sports Business Classroom audio experience.